Out of fuel, surrounded by danger, then a human ship arrived. Asterisk, the lights went out without warning. One moment, Varela Prime was full of noise, light, and movement, thousands of aliens working, talking, laughing. The next, everything stopped. No sound, no light, no power. It was like the station had died in a single breath. Xanthiel was in the maintenance shaft when it happened. The lights above him blinked, flickered, then vanished. Gravity dropped for half a second. The air thinned. Then silence. He didn't panic. He had trained for emergencies. He reached into the tool pack on his hip and pulled out a small backup light. The beam flickered weakly. It was running low. He pressed the emergency beacon on his wrist, but nothing happened. Dead. His heart started to beat faster. He climbed out of the shaft slowly, careful in the darkness. When he reached the hallway, he froze. Bodies lay scattered, unmoving. Some floated gently, drifting without gravity. Others were curled near the walls, eyes wide open. He forced himself to keep moving. There was no fire. No explosion. Nothing that explained what had happened. Just quiet. He made it to an old storage room deep in the lower levels. The manual airlock still worked. It sealed behind him with a slow hiss. Inside, there was a small oxygen pod used. For training drills, he climbed in, powered it up, and sealed the door, and he waited hours past. Maybe days. He couldn't tell. His oxygen was limited, but the pod recycled it slowly. He rationed food and water, but outside, the silence never ended. Far away, on the edge of human-controlled space, Lila Torres sat in a metal chair, sipping cold tea. She was alone in Earth's outpost Nina, monitoring station that barely counted as a base. Just her, an old AI named Milo, and too many empty screens. The stars blinked quietly outside the window. Another quiet night, she muttered. Then one screen buzzed. She frowned, leaned forward. A signal, just a faint pulse. Not a message. Not a known pattern, just a beat. Like a heartbeat, Milo. Analyze that, she said quickly. The AI word, unknown source. Not a human design. Origin, Deep Sector 9. No one lives in Sector 9. No one. Recently. She pulled up the map. Sector 9 was where Varela Prime used to be, a massive alien station. Everyone said it had gone dark. Power failure, dead. Nothing to save. She stared at the signal. It was weak, broken, old tech. But it was there. Something was alive. Could be a trap, Milo said. Could be a cry for help. Lila replied. She contacted Earth Command. They thanked her. Promised to look into it. Then silence. She waited for 2 days. Nothing. That's when she made her decision. She climbed into the old patrol ship parked on the edge of the outpost hangar. It was outdated, ugly, but modified her own project. It had backup systems, fusion power, and one thing most alien ships didn't have: layers of messy, human workarounds. Boot it up, she told Milo, who transferred into the ship's core. She sent one message before leaving. To whoever hears this sim going into Sector 9, something is alive in there, and I'm not leaving them behind. 3 days later, her ship floated near the dead zone. Everything here was cold. Stars seemed dimmer. It's like the space itself was tired. Approaching Varela Prime, Milo said. She stared at the massive alien station ahead. It looked wrong. The surface had cracks, huge black lines across the metal. Like veins, her ship crept closer. No response. No lights. Then something moved. Only for a second. A ripple in the dark near one of the broken windows. What was that? Lila asked. Unknown? She felt a chill crawl down her neck. They docked manually. She suited up and stepped inside. The hallway beyond was cold and silent. Walls scratched. Lights broken. She moved slowly, gun ready. Flashlight sweeping across the walls. And then, from the darkness, she heard it. A voice, weak, cracked. Help. She turned sharply, heart racing. Who's there? Silence again, then please. Don't leave. She ran toward the sound. Behind a sealed training pod, she found him. Blue skin, thin limbs, weak but alive. Eyes wide. You're not Talsari, Xanthil said. No, I'm human, and I'm here to help. He began to cry softly. Then, the wall behind them made a sound like something sliding over metal. They both turned. What was that? She whispered. Xanthil's face went pale. It's still here. What is? His voice shook. The thing that eats the light. And then behind them, low hum began. Not the sound of power, but the sound of something waking up and watching. Leela stared at the wall behind them. The metal had changed. A section of it looked soft like it was melting, not from heat, but from something else, something alive. Xanthil pulled her hand. We have to move now. They ran through the dark corridor, Lila's flashlight bouncing off broken pipes and cracked walls. The thing didn't chase them with footsteps. It slid, unseen, like a shadow that didn't care about walls. It fed off power off light and it hadn't noticed them. Lila led them back toward the docking hatch. Her ship was still there, lights flickering. The creature hadn't touched it yet. Human tech, full of backups, manual switches, and old circuits confused the thing. Xanthil collapsed into the ship. He had barely eaten. His face looked gray-blue. Leela sealed the hatch. Milo, close all doors. No energy leaks. I want full containment. Understood, the AI answered. Lila knelt beside the alien. How many survivors? Xanthil shook. His head slowly. Maybe 500. Out of 20,000. She swallowed hard. Where are they? Lower levels, he whispered. We hid them in emergency zones. Most systems failed. Some are dying. And this thing? She asked, What is it? Xanthil's voice dropped. Not natural. Not alien. It was made here. By accident. We were testing dark matter reactors. We opened something. It slipped through, so the power failure. It eats energy. It touched the core. It grew. It started hunting anything that moved. We tried to stop it. We failed. Lila stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes stayed sharp. Then we'd stop it another way. She turned to the screen, typing fast. Milo, connect to Earth Command again. Already tried, the AI replied. Blocked. They've marked this zone as restricted. No signals in or out. They left this place to die, Leela said quietly. Xanthil didn't argue. Leela paced the small bridge. Can't fight that thing directly. But we can find the others. Move them. Evacuate the station in pieces. With what ship? Xanthil asked. Leela smiled a little. One is enough. I brought more than you think. She had hidden something in the ship's hold, a foldable human transport pod, powered by separate cells. It was slow, heavy, but it could carry 50 passengers per trip. Xanthil stared at her. You came alone. With all this, I didn't plan on leaving empty-handed, she said. That night, Lila entered the station again. This time she followed Xanthil's map. The path was long and twisted. Some parts had collapsed. Others were warped like melted plastic. They passed 3 empty suits lying in the hallway. The Talsari security burned from inside. One helmet was cracked open. Xanthil didn't speak. At last, they reached the emergency zone. Doors opened, and eyes looked up. Dozens of aliens stared at Lila. Blinking slowly, some were children, others were wounded. The air inside the room was thin and stale. Lila stepped in, hands raised. We're here to get you out. Some gasped, some laughed weakly, a few cried. She spent hours guiding them to the ship in groups. Slow steps, no lights, no sounds. The creature moved through the dark like a scent. Couldn't see or hear, but it could feel energy. Each time they walked past a working light, it flickered, then died. On their third trip, something went wrong. They reached the central corridor. Suddenly, the metal ahead of them rippled. Shape began to form a black mass rising from the wall like thick smoke. It's here, someone screamed. Lila shoved the group backward. Run. She grabbed a flare from her belt and tossed it. Forward, the flame burst to life, red and bright. The creature froze, writhing, unsure. Double quotes Milo, unlock the upper door. She shouted. The AI opened the backup hatch. The group rushed in. The creature started moving again. Lila turned and slammed the emergency lever. The door closed, but not fast enough. Part of the shadow slipped through and touched the floor. The ship's lights dimmed. Systems light. Should Leela hit the panel, reroute power, cut all lines to the corridor? The AI obeyed. The light in the hallway died. So did the thing, vanishing into the metal like it had never been there. Breathing hard, she leaned against the wall. Milo, remind me never to bring a flashlight again. Noted. Xanthil came to her side. You saved them. Lila shook her head. We're not done yet. He looked at her, puzzled. Why do this? These aren't your people. She looked out the window at the broken station. They don't have to be. You can help. You don't wait for orders. You go. He stared at her for a long moment. Your kind, humans, are not what we expected. Lila turned to him. We never are. Behind them, the corridor lights blinked again. Then everything went dark. Something was coming, and this time it was learning. The lights didn't come back on. The hallway behind them stayed dead. No flickers, no hum of broken systems, just a heavy silence, like something was waiting. Lila stared at the wall. She could feel it, something just beyond the metal, watching, listening, not through eyes or ears, but through pulses, through heat, through movement. It's not chasing us, she whispered. Xanthiel nodded. Not yet. They moved carefully through the ship's corridors. The group of survivors stayed silent, every footstep quiet, every breath soft. Even the children didn't cry. Somehow they understood the danger. Back inside the human ship, Milo kept the systems on low power. No bright lights, no humming engines. Just enough for life support and navigation. Leela helped the last of the survivors lie down. Blankets, food packs, oxygen masks. Many of them were weak, dehydrated, and barely hanging on. But they were alive. She sat near the ship's window, eyes locked on the dark station outside. It looked like a grave. And yet something inside it was still alive. Something terrible. Milo spoke softly. Station sensors show strange movement patterns. Whatever the entity is, it's spreading. Define spreading, Lila said. It's moving through solid walls, absorbing power lines, extending itself, like roots, like a disease. Xanto looked down. It was never supposed to be this way. Varela Prime was built as a trade center, a peaceful station. Then the High Council allowed the experiments. Dark energy research, hidden from the public, even from most of us who lived here. Lila looked at him. And they never told anyone what they found? Never expected it to escape. Lila stood up and checked her gear. Then we finish what they started. We find a way to kill it. Xanthil blinked. Kill it? You've seen it. It moves through walls. It feeds on power. It isn't alive in the way we understand.
How?
Lila said, but it reacts to certain things. Light, fire, old tech. We've seen it stop. That means it has limits. Just have to find them. Shh. Milo, bring up a map of the core systems. A small screen lit up, showing the inside of the station. Red areas blinked. That was where power still flickered. It's hunting power, she said. So we starve it, Xanthiel. Leaned in, shut down the last energy sources. Yes, and once it's weak, we trap it. How? We use ourselves as bait. They began their work quietly. Xanthiel led her through side tunnels, places only maintenance workers knew. They disabled the last working vents, the small data cores, the flickering wall lights. One by one, they cut off the food source. Meanwhile, Lila adjusted the human ship. She set power to minimum, switched to manual controls, rerouted backup power to small plasma coils in the lower level. Her plan was simple, but risky. Lure the thing toward the coils, then overcharge them and release the energy all at once. It wouldn't destroy the creature, but it might trap it, at least for a short time. Xanthal stared at her as she explained. You humans think differently, he said. We're used to making things work with junk. Lila smiled. No clean systems, just stubborn ideas. That night, the creature came again. The survivors stayed inside the sealed human ship. The corridors outside grew cold. Lights dimmed. A low vibration passed through the walls. Lila was waiting in the control room with Xanthal. Plasma coils charged below them. A sensor on the wall began to flash. It's near, Milo whispered. The walls turned black. Lila's hand hovered over the trigger. Not yet. The shadow slid along the ceiling. No eyes, no face. Just movement. It inched toward the power coils like an animal sniffing for food. Now? Xanthal asked, trembling. Wait. The shadow reached the coils, hovered, touched now. Lila hit the button. A flash of white light exploded in the chamber. The coils released their stored energy in one violent burst. The room shook, the walls screamed, and the shadow twisted, shrieking in a sound that wasn't a sound. It clawed at the light, trying to pull itself away. Then it vanished, sucked into the floor, leaving behind a scorched black stain. Lila fell back, breathing hard. Xanthal helped her up. Did we kill it? I don't know, she said. We heard it, yeah. She turned to the map screen again, but what she saw froze her blood. New red dots were appearing farther away, deeper in the station. 4, 5, 6 of them. Milo's voice came in cold and flat. Lila, I think there's more than one. Asterisk. Lila stared at the red dots on the map. They blinked slowly, one by one, in different corners of the station. There's more, she whispered. It's not alone. Xanthal stepped forward, eyes wide with fear. I thought it was one creature, but if it's spreading... No, Lila said. It's not spreading. These aren't copies. They're pieces. Milo's voice came through the speaker. I've run an analysis. The new energy readings are smaller. Weakened, maybe. Less stable. Like fragments, Lila said. When we hit the main one with the plasma coils, it didn't die. It broke apart. And now, Xanthal added, there are 5 of them. Lila turned away from the screen, pacing the small control room. We can't fight 5. Not. Like before, the coil system took hours to charge. And we only have enough fuel left for one more blast. Xanthal looked tired. Then what do we do? Lila took a deep breath. We changed the rules. They worked in silence. The survivors, in the back of the ship, were getting worse. Oxygen was still low. Some were sick. A few didn't wake up that morning. Lila knew time was running out. She and Xanthal moved through the station again. But this time, they didn't go near the creatures. Instead, they dropped tiny human beacons, powerless, silent devices that could record and track movement without giving off signals. It was a trick from Earth's old spy programs. Humans had learned to hide from machines long before they met aliens. Each beacon was placed near the creature fragments. Each one sent a tiny pulse back to Milo now. They could watch without being seen. By the end of the day, the map showed 5 moving shadows. They never came close to each other. They stayed deep in the dark, slipping through walls and broken metal. They avoid each other, Lila said. They're not friends, Xanthal said. They're wild, scattered. Maybe they don't even remember being one. That might be our only chance, Lila sat down, rubbing her eyes. They're hunting power still. Not people, not ships, just energy. Xanthal looked at her. Then we give them something they want. The next plan was riskier. Too risky. But they had no other choice. Lila connected 3 old energy cores from the ship units designed for short bursts of power. Each one was placed in a different hallway, far from the survivors, far from the human ship. The cores were set to activate at the same time, releasing enough energy to draw the creatures toward them. When the shadows arrived, the team would trigger. Overloads burning out the cores and stunning the fragments one by one. It wouldn't destroy them, but it would give the survivors more time to escape. Xanthiel didn't like it. If one of them follows us back, it won't, Lila said. They want the cores more than they want us. And besides, she pulled out her last flare. I have backup. He smiled weakly. You're either very smart or very insane. She smiled back. I'm human. You blurred the line. The traps were set. Lila returned to the ship and told the survivors to get ready. They would begin the first real evacuation in an hour. The transport pod had been unfolded, filled with supplies, and connected to the ship. 50 survivors would leave, 50 out of hundreds. It wasn't enough, but it was a start as the launch timer began. The first energy core activated. Milo's voice called out, "One creature fragment is moving, heading toward core alpha." Good, Lila said. Let's hope it works. The second core came online. Another red dot started, now moving. Then the third. But something strange happened. The fourth red vanished. Xanthiel noticed it first. One's missing. Milo scanned again. No signal, no movement. Maybe it burned out, Lila said. Maybe the fragment couldn't hold itself together. Then the lights inside the ship dimmed. Milo's voice dropped in tone. I'm detecting energy loss. Inside this ship, Xanthiel turned sharply. Here. Lila grabbed a tool and ran. The back of the ship was quiet. Too quiet. Survivors looked up weakly, confused. A chill filled the room. Condensation formed on the walls. Then she saw it. A patch of wall, bubbling, turning black. The creature hadn't followed the core. It had followed them, she shouted. Evacuate the pod. Get everyone in now. People began to move, stumbling toward the pod. Lila pulled out her last flare. The shadow stretched toward the children. She lit the flare. A burst of red fire filled the room. The creature recoiled, hissing. It didn't make a sound, but the pressure in the air changed, like a silent scream. Lila tossed the flare. It landed near the black patch. The metal bubbled, hissed, then stopped. The creature faded, vanished into the floor. Lila collapsed against the wall. Xanthiel helped her up. You saved them, no, she said. We bought time. Behind them, the pod detached and launched, carrying the first 52 safety. Lila looked out the window, her face pale. There are more coming, she whispered. Milo confirmed it. 2 new red dots just appeared. Xanthiel stared at the map. You were right. They broke apart. Lila nodded slowly. And now we're surrounded. The ship shook. It wasn't from weapons or engines. It was deeper than that, like the metal itself was groaning. Lila grabbed a railing as the lights flickered again. They're pushing in, she said, voice tight. Not just one anymore. Voice echoed from the control panel. 3 fragments are now approaching. 1 has entered the station's lower deck. 2 are near the ship's airlock. Xanthiel looked pale. We can't stop that many. Not with flares. Not with power traps. Lila leaned over the table, staring at the map of the station. Red dots moved like crawling insects. Slow, but steady. They're drawn to energy, she whispered. That's what keeps them alive. What if we give them nothing? Xanthiel frowned. You mean, turn off everything? Everything, she said. The whole ship. The station. No power, no lights, no signals. That's suicide, he said. We'd lose life support. Oxygen. Heat. Lila nodded. But they won't follow what they can't feel. Silence filled the room. Then Milo spoke softly. There is a way to drop the main grid for 4 hours. Manual override from the reactor level. But the controls must be handled from inside. Lila already knew what that meant. She had to go in. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The survivors were loaded onto the backup pod. It was small and had no engine, just enough to float clear of the station, out of the dead zone. Earth could find it later. Xanthiel would stay with the pod. He argued at first, but Leela needed someone who could guide the others. "You got them this far," she said. "They trust you." "And you?" he asked. She smiled. "I have a flashlight and a death wish." He didn't laugh. She hugged him once quickly, then climbed back into the dark. The walk to the lower reactor level was the longest of her life. Lila moved carefully through broken hallways. Her light was off. She used a small chemical glow stick dim in green, enough to see where she stepped. Everything around her felt cold, not from space, but from them. The creatures weren't chasing anymore. They were waiting, hunting by sensing. She had seen what they did sliding under doors, through vents, past steel like it was paper, but they avoided the cold zones. Places with no power, no warmth, no light. That gave her hope. She reached the access shaft, climbed down one level at a time. Her gloves were slick with sweat. Her heart beat so loudly, she thought it might give her away. The reactor room was huge and silent. She found the main panel. The core hummed faintly, still working. Barely, she opened the panel and reached inside. "Milo, I'm here," she whispered. "Start the countdown," understood the AI said. "Total shutdown in 3 minutes. After that, I lose all communication." "Copy that," she said. "Make it count." Back in the human ship, the lights blinked twice, then died. Xanthiel sat in the launch pod with the others. No light, no sound, just his breath and the soft shaking of people around him. Outside, the station turned black, and the creatures stopped moving. Inside the reactor room, Leela felt the lights vanish. Her glow stick barely lit her fingers. She sat in the dark, alone, waiting. Time passed slowly. Then she heard it. A faint scratch, then a slow drip. Drip. Something slid across the floor. She froze, holding her breath. The creature had found her, but there was no power. No light, nothing to feed on, and so it stopped. It waited. Lila stayed still, not blinking. The thing was only a few meters away. She could feel it. A pressure in the air, a quiet, invisible storm. For hours, she had to wait for hours, in the pod. Xanthiel watched the timer tick down. 1 hour. 2, 3, no signal, no sign. He wanted to go back. But he couldn't leave the survivors. Leela had trusted him. He had to believe she would make it. The 4th hour ended. Suddenly, ship's lights blinked on. Power returned. Milo's voice came back. Systems restored. Life signs detected. Lila Torres, live. Xanthiel jumped up. The others cheered weakly. The creatures. Milo spoke again. "All 5 fragments have vanished. No movement detected. Core scan shows neutral particles. The creatures have gone dormant, not dead, but sleeping." Xanthiel stared at the screen. She did it. She starved them. When they found her in the reactor room, she was sitting against the wall, eyes half closed, flashlight still clutched in her hand. Her voice was dry. "Told you, powerless works." Xanthiel smiled. "You're insane." She gave a tired grin. "Welcome to humanity." Asterisk, the creatures were silent. Now, since the blackout, they had not moved. No new energy spikes, no shifting walls, no flickering lights, but no one felt safe. Xanthiel stood in the center of the ship's control room, watching the monitors closely. The red dots were gone, but that didn't mean the danger was. He knew better now. They'd seen how fast those things could return. Leela rested in the medical bay. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Her skin was pale, her voice rough, but her mind still sharp. "Status," Shast, as Xanthiel came to her side. "No movement," he said. "They're quiet, like the blackout made them disappear." "They didn't disappear," she said. "They're waiting, watching. They learn." Xanthiel frowned. "You really believe they can think?" "I know they can," she said. "Each time we acted, they adapted. First they attacked light, Then they ignored it. Then they followed us, not power. Xanthiel nodded slowly. They started thinking like predators. We're the prey, she added. He sat beside her. What do we do now? He asked. Leela stared at the ceiling. We don't just hide. Don't just run. We trick them. Her new plan didn't involve energy weapons or strong metal. It involved confusion. She called it the chaos trick. We'll build traps that look like power, she explained. But they'll be fake. Just noise. Random patterns. Bright. Useless sparks. We'll give the creatures too many signals. So many that they can't tell what's real anymore. Overload their senses, Xanthiel said. Make them confused. Exactly. They gotta work. Old wiring. Broken panels. Battery. Coils and scrap circuits. Human tech wasn't beautiful, but it was messy. Flexible. Quick to build. They spread the chaos traps all over the station. Some buzzed loudly. Some flashed in strange patterns. Some sprayed static into the air like invisible fireworks. Milo ran them all from a simple randomizer. Nothing repeated, nothing predictable, and then they turned it on. At first nothing happened. Then the map lit up. One red moved, then another. Soon, 4 of the creature fragments began moving across the station, bumping into walls following. Dead wires, circling empty spaces that gave off false signals. They're chasing ghosts. Xanthiel said in shock. They don't know where to strike, Lila said. Now we lead them into the trap. The real trap was deep in the old cargo bay. They had cleared it days ago. It was wide, empty, and sealed on all sides. In the center, they placed the only real energy source they had left, an old human. Escape pod engine, wired to blow. If we can lure all fragments into the cargo bay, Lila explained, we hit the engine. The energy will overload them, scatter them again. Or destroy them, Milo added. Or us, Xanthiel said. No one laughed, but they agreed. The chaos traps worked better than anyone expected. The creatures followed the fake signals, like flies to heat. Their bodies slithered down halls, around corners, through vents. Lila watched them on the monitors, her hands shaking as each one crept closer to the cargo bay. We have 4 inside, Milo reported, waiting on the last. The 5th had stopped moving. It rested near the stations. Main reactor, silent. Why is it waiting? Xanthiel asked. It's thinking, Lila said. It knows something's wrong. She stood up. I'm going. Xanthiel grabbed her arm. No, you've done enough. I started this, she said. Let me finish it. She took a flare, a stun stick, and a light sensor, then walked into the dark alone. She found the 5th fragment curled like smoke near the old reactor door. It pulsed, gently feeding. Maybe sleeping, maybe. But when she stepped closer, it twitched. She stopped, lifted her hand slowly, turned on the flare. A small hiss echoed through the room. The creature turned. Come on, she whispered. Follow me. It slithered across the floor. Lila moved fast, through the narrow corridors, past cold wires and burned walls. Didn't look back, just listened for the soft scraping sound behind her. When she reached the cargo bay, the door opened. Wide. 4 creatures were already inside, circling the bait engine like sharks. Lila stepped in. The 5th followed. She hit the door button. All doors sealed. Now, she shouted from the command center. Milo activated the final charge. The engine roared. Light burst across the bay. The creatures screamed, silent but terrible. Their shadows stretched thin and snapped like paper in fire. Then all was still. Xanthiel ran to the bay. He found Lila on the floor, coughing, alive. It worked, she whispered. They're gone. He helped her up. You're insane, she smiled, still human. They walked out past the burnt remains of what once hunted them. Now, only silence. But this time, it wasn't the kind that kills. It was peace. The cleanup took days. What was left of the shadow creatures had turned to ash. The energy traps had burned out. The false signals were gone. The station finally felt still. Not the deadly kind of silence, but calm. The survivors came out of hiding, blinking at the lights that now stayed on. Xanthiel moved through the halls slowly, helping those who were weak. He carried children, shared water, and gave hope. The fear was still in their eyes, but something new had taken root to belief that they might live. Lila stood at the main window of the control deck, watching the stars. Her arm was bandaged, her body tired, but her eyes sharp. Milo spoke from the console. Long-range communications restored. Signal clear. Earth Command has received our message. She nodded. What did they say? They're sending rescue? Ships. Estimated arrival in 6 days. She let out a long breath. Good, these people can't take much more. Xanthiel entered the room, smiling slightly. We made it. Lila turned. Yeah, we did. He looked around the station, broken. Burned, half dark, but alive. I never thought we would. She shrugged. That's what humans do. We surprise people. He laughed a little. You didn't just surprise us. You changed us. She raised a brow. Really? He walked to the console. Before you came. The Talsari believed in control. In order. In clean solutions. You brought chaos. Messy plans. Strange tools. And it worked. Chaos can be powerful, she said, if you know how to aim it. Xanthiel reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal piece. It was scorched and bent a part of one of the creature traps. I want to take this home, he said. To remind my people of what we faced and how we survived. Lila smiled. You should tell them everything, not just about the monsters, but the decisions that led to them. He nodded slowly. We will. No more hiding secrets. We've seen what that causes. Just then, Milo chimed again. Coming vessel detected. Small. Not from Earth. Xanthiel frowned. That's not one of ours either. Lila leaned closer. Friendly. Unknown. Single occupant. No weapons detected. A few minutes later, a small ship docked with the station. The airlock opened. Out stepped a strange figure tall, wrapped in a dark cloak with glowing orange eyes. A traitor. Lila met him at the door. You're brave, she said, coming here so soon. The traitor bowed. I heard the stories. Dead station, then a human ship, and then silence. I came to see the truth. She motioned to the dark. Walls, the half-lit floors, see for yourself. He looked around. They said you fought the dark. We did. He smiled. Then the stories are true. The humans didn't run. They stayed. They saved aliens no one else would touch. Lila folded her arms. Is that so surprising? To some, yes, he said, but not to me. He handed her a small black disc. A beacon. What's your name? When the next traveler finds it, they'll hear your story. She took the disc slowly. Why? Because people forget fast, the traitor said, and what you did here shouldn't be forgotten. Then he left, just as quickly as he came. Looked at her. You're becoming legend now, she laughed. Let's hope it's a useful one. 6 days later, Earth ships arrived, big, bright, and loud. They filled the sky with color. Medical teams rushed in. Engineers followed. The survivors cheered, some crying, some kneeling in relief. Lila sat on a crate near the airlock as a uniformed officer walked over. Captain Torres. Shh, he said. I'm not a captain. You are now, she raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? You led a rescue mission? Saved over 500 lives? Defeated an unknown threat? You didn't wait for permission. You acted. That's leadership. She looked down at her scraped boots. I was just doing what felt right. The officer smiled. That's what makes the best kind. He handed her a small badge. Silver and clean. Xanthiel watched from a distance, then walked over. Going back to Earth, she looked out the window at the rescue ships. Maybe, but not yet. You've done enough. Not yet, she said again. There's still more to fix. He nodded. Then I'll stay too. In the weeks that followed, humans and Talsari worked together. They rebuilt power lines, cleared ruined decks, shared knowledge, shared food, and for the first time, trusted each other without question. News of what happened on Varela Prime spread across the galaxy. Station once lost in the dark was now a symbol of light, not because of its technology, but because one human showed up, when no one else would. Somewhere in deep space, Trader told the tale to a group of young pilots. There was a time when the lights went out, and everyone thought it was the end, but a human came. And she didn't bring perfect plans or shiny tech. She brought grit. She brought chaos, and she brought hope. They listened quietly. Then one asked, "Was it real?" He smiled. "Oh, it was real." The stars burned on.